Greetings. Welcome to Paint Here Now. I am Will Parody. Today we're going to have some fun looking at two colors. Three if we throw some white in there, but basically we're going to look at two colors. This week we're going to look at the complementary colors, okay? Those are three pairs of colors essentially. Red and green, orange and blue, purple and yellow. We're going to talk a little bit about them and what that means. But what we're going to do is each day explore one pair. So today we're going to look at red and green. What does that mean? So we're going to just paint red spots and green spots and mix them together? Well, kind of. But what it means is that we're going to see all of the range of colors, of emotions, of feelings, of depths, of space, of all of these things that we can find by mixing two colors together. If we throw a little bit of white in there, we can see how that acts as a color of its own, in a sense, more than just a lightener, because it affects the tones, it affects the hues even. So it's very interesting to see. So we're going to have a lot of fun, I think, working on this. You're going to be amazed at the amounts of grays and browns and dark light colors, all of these incredible, useful earthy colors that we can get out of mixing red and green, all of these useful colors to make things look like they're receding in the background. Because if you're painting trees, for example, you have one that's 2 feet in front of you and one 200 feet in front of you in your picture, they're not going to be the same green. They have to be a little bit different, or else they'll look like they're in the same plane. I mean, there's things you can do, tricks if you want, or ways that you can use just solid colors. But really, if you want to express depth of an object in space in a painting, using the complementary colors, mixing them together, is an incredible way to do that. So we are going to do that. Without further ado, we're going to zoom on in and start mixing red and green and talk a little bit about what that means, and most importantly, see what that means. All right. Alrighty. Oh yeah. Huh. Oh, this is cool. All right, you know what? We are actually going to show you what's going on here. So I just dropped my paints in a yogurt container. I've got some green, some liquid green. And where are we? Ah, yes. That's cool. Those are my guitar cables. And the carpet. You know what? We are not cleaning that up. That is a ridiculous. If I was, I'm talking with a paintbrush in my mouth. If I was moving my cables around and whatnot, then I might wipe up some things. But you know what? I'm going to leave that as it is for at least right now. And it'll probably dry by the time they get moved around, or I'll be a little careful if I need to use them. Otherwise, it's paint. I get paint everywhere. I think it looks cool if I'm using these on stage or anything, or even in my own films. I film my music all the time. It'll look neat to see shiny fluorescent cables. So there we go. Wanted to share that because these are some of the things that happen when you bring paint into your life. So that being said, I'm going to get in a quick dizzying tour of the studio. This is fun. Let's try to get back to business here. Okay, thank you for that little detour, ladies and gentlemen. That was, I would say that was a little bit of fun. I've got it on my shoe too, of course. That I'll have to take care of before I go in the house. Anyways, red and green. So since green, ooh, that was a lot of it too. Since the green went all over the place, we're going to start with that, green. Now this is a fluorescent green. It's kind of a thin paint, as you can see. It doesn't have a lot of oomph to it if you spread it out, thin it out. And one of the cool things about paint like this, all paint really can do this, but paint like this, because some people don't like it because it's, hard to get a good thick coat. You have to paint it, but one of the cool things about it is that you can really get some nice lights just on its own without adding water, without adding white, anything like that. And so you can get some interesting textures, and you can carve into the paint a little bit. See, make little marks like that. So it's cool. You can do a lot of different stuff. This is actually a fluorescent green. And we're going to see how that interacts with the red. We're also going to use this darker green. And we'll put it over here. It's gotten a little bit grainy. But that's okay. It'll work. You can do a similar thing with this paint. to see the difference. Look at that's really cool. How dark and then how light, and in between, and even sculpting in to the paint, pulling stuff out. You can add it then in here. Different things you can do with a brush and color. See, as it gets less and less, it does. You can still do things. You press a little harder, it'll come out more. Then you can just. Doing this too is a good way to work on your eye-hand coordination, eye-hand coordination, and manual dexterity and things. Can you get them pretty equal? Can you get them to be pretty much the same? And then the challenge is as the paint starts to thin out even more, you need to press just a little bit harder. And see, press too hard, it gets kind of too dark. Or not too dark, but if you're trying to keep it as light as possible. You can do this in a painting. Imagine doing this 100 or 1,000 times. You can get different levels of grass or different people do it, have done it. Can be done differently and again. All right. So all these different things you can do with a single color, messing around with a brush. Pretty awesome. Let's get to some red. Start with this lighter kind of a red. This is cadmium red, which I think would tend to get on a little bit on the orange side. Cadmium orange, cadmium yellow. And then we have a different kind of red. You can see one is a little bit, it's a little oranger red, a little warmer red. This is a little cooler red, a little more on the purple side, just a little bit. Both reds, both very usable. You can see, especially as thin them out a little bit, the quality's like, yeah, see? Pinker, and then here, let's try this next one. Much more orange. Very sanguine. So just two reds. Look at all these colors. We got some interesting little colors. I think we've got a pretty decent variation in here. Maybe a little more than the greens, but this one's got some nice, as far as potential hue differences. The orange really comes out and it's almost a brown as you lighten it. The pinkish purple, you know, the magenta-ishness of this comes out a lot when it's brought up. So this looks just simply almost lighter. Like it's not necessarily more yellow or more blue. Just looks a little bit lighter, where these a little bit more blue, a little bit more orange. It's cool. It's interesting. It's interesting stuff. So these are what we call complementary colors on the color wheel. We can do that, I think, real quick. We have the other colors mixed? No. But basically, these will match each other. When you mix them together, they almost neutralize each other, or they turn into grays or browns. So actually, we're going to start with a little bit of green, which is going to have some red in it to begin with. Clean it off just a little bit. Okay, a little bit of green. Adds a little bit of dark to this. It's a nice mix, actually. I like that. That's cool. We'll put a little bit more dark here in some areas. It's really kind of nice, actually, in and of itself. I like that. Okay, so we have this color, and then we're going to, in here, work on this one. Okay, which has, see, some red in it. We'll add a little bit more dark to make it match this one a little more. But you can see how one is a little bit more faded, right? A little warmer maybe, a little more brown. Very subtle, right? But you can see, I hope you can see the difference between this and this one, which is, you know, and we'll add a little bit more of that pure color of the lighter to just reiterate, will pop out above this one, right? So if you're making something depth-wise, this one can be behind. It's a little bit more dull. And if we add a little bit more red to this, first we'll put some more green. See, so this is already a little bolder than this because we haven't added much red, and now we're going to add a little bit more of our red. Whoa. Found a wet spot over there. This one's going to look like it's way further in the distance. Well, no, not too bad. Just as an iteration, just as an idea. But you can see how this one is already a little bit significantly, I think. Yeah, we can be a little bit more. Some cases almost brown. Now we're getting almost a gray color in here. We'll just do a little bit. You can see the bold difference. Adding a little bit of red to the green can help bring it back some. So if you're making trees or shrubberies or anything like that, you know, it'll look a little bit more like there's things in the distance. If you add a little bit of red. And I'm just, you know, I could really pull this out, make a landscape, but I'm just squiggling around with blotches of color. One of the great things about blotches of color, in fact, it's the essence. I think it's part of the essence of consciousness, of our very existence, to be perfectly honest with you. But the blotches of color come within a perspective of imagination to create form and purpose. And that's our physical life, that's our mental life, our conscious creative life. I believe this. And art's, it's how we know this. It's how we relate to it. It's so important. So, but even just making these little blotches of color, you can infer perhaps a space or some distance or some trees or that kind of thing. And you can definitely, I hope, see how the bolder colors come out more than the red. So now we're using this more orange red with this green. And that red's really strong compared to this green as I thought it would be. So we're gonna move it on down a little bit here with some that's left on the brush. This is what we want right here. Look at this beautiful brown. The raw. Is it raw umber? A little green. But also a little bit more cool. This is awesome. This is a beautiful color. Even without adding any white. Maybe we won't even. I don't even think we need to. No, we're going to just stick with two colors. White will be another lesson entirely to add to these things. Give it a little bit more dimension that way. Or, you know, a little bit. You can delve deeper. Give it its own space. Because white and what it can do in paint does deserve it. It deserves a week. So, but we can get light colors and hues and see these things by using water and just the lightness of our palettes. Of our canvas. By blending it thin over. Look at that. This color and this color is the same. But look how different it is. Just by the way that I used a little bit of water and spread it out. And let the light, white, whatever, it's not exactly white, but the light of the canvas come through the thinness of the paint. This is acrylic paint, not watercolor or oils. And it's really, I really like that it has qualities of both. So that's cool. So that is what we got by mixing some of this red and the light green together. That was the orangey red and the fluorescent green. So now we're going to take the orangey red, come over here. That's going to be a lot, but we'll save some. In fact, we'll come over here where that dark green is with a little bit of this, and we're going to add some dark green. Do more than that. And you can see the difference between the dark green. In fact, we're going to add a little bit more green. It's a nice dark red, kind of a red-brown color. Real cool. Neat, I should say. Now this is more cool. This. You can see the difference, I think. The one that is... Oh, there's my head. Trying to get a good view here. Reflecting a little. But I think it's really... So, this color and the darker green, this color. And then this is this color and this color. More or less this. So, as we could... Or this was we could expect. This is going to be darker. Almost a black. Look at what a great color you can use for dark shadows on trees, for eyes and hair and shadows and wood and earth and all kinds of things. Animals, people. I mean, this is such a useful color. And as we see, plus it's just beautiful in and of itself. it's almost like mint chocolate. Gosh, that's good. I'm hungry. Look at that, though. It's such a beautiful brownish gray. Really dances in the middle. Just these two colors. If we wanted to bring out a little bit more of a gray, cool quality to it, we're going to add a little bit more of that green. Or a lot in this case. It's all right. We're going to come up here. Still a little on the green side. As opposed to the cool side. That's much better. You can see that is, well, this is sort of a, brownish, reddish, warmish brown. This is a greenish, cool gray. We'll add just even a little bit more red to it. See that gray really come out. Of course, if you add white, you get a whole other range of colors that you can do with these grays and stuff. But, and we will look at that, just not today, but look at this. Can you see that faintly? What a beautiful, this could be such a wonderful color. It could be used in a sky, gray sky, parts of water, ocean, of course, rocks, stone. Various types of shadows on lighter things, and just, it's a very nice color. And again, we got all of this from these from mixing this color and this color together. How cool is that? Red and green, just a couple different kinds. So we've got some really neat things going on. And so lastly, I think we have, we got two more. So we're going to do the fluorescent green. We'll go back up here with some of the darker red. Not so much darker, I should say, cooler, a little more on the purple side. It's pretty strong. So that's cool. That's a nice, again, sort of a greenish brown color. It's funny, as it thins out, it looks a little browner, and then as it's thicker, it looks a little greener. It's neat like that. Cool. Even a little bit more warm, just a little in some spots, a lot. And we put that over here. You can see a difference between this and this. Oh, they're similar. There's a definite difference between the two reds and the greens. But the reds are kind of closer much closer, I should say, than the two greens we're using on. But again, same ideas. Spreading it around. Very cool, neat colors. Wanted to get a little bit more green in there. So, because you can see, again, the distance. So we're going to look like this is getting more in the distance. And we have a little bit more green coming up here. Perhaps, blended in a little bit so it looks like we're getting, can you see that? Even in a little bit, how it starts to look a little bit more depth-like. Even if it's just an abstraction, we get an idea. But if we wanted to make this a landscape, mountains, trees, all this stuff, boom, it's all right there. It's all right there. And then let's mix these. Oh, that's nice. This red and this green. Oh, that's almost purple. That's really beautiful. Look at that. You can see the comparison here. It got so much darker. What a big difference. It really did. This, because this with the little bit of purple and the green, because they make a dark connection, that little bit of blue, it really made a substantial difference between using the lighter and the darker, more so than the lighter green did. This is really cool in here. And it's so much darker because of that little bit of red. Oh yeah, that's, look at that. What a beautiful color that is. When it's dark, what a dark gray. A little bit on the warmer side. We can easily make it a little bit on the cooler side. Asphalt, even if you're gonna paint that kind of thing. So many colors from nature, from the sky, from the water, from people's eyes, people's hair, animals, microorganisms, interdimensional entities, and intergalactic aliens alike. Find these colors somewhere all over the place and almost everywhere you can possibly exist within your mind and physical and astral body. Because art really does connect to that. Art does have a lot of that connection to that, the woo and then woo. Well, some people call it that, I guess. And the spirit and the metaphysical. Like it's one of the ways that we can connect it to our real world and understand it. It's just a phenomenal thing, and we will talk more about that. If you're interested on my Art for Truth, Art for number 4 Truth, like that YouTube channel, I do a number of performances and songs with that theme, art and its importance, its connection to us, our consciousness, etc., etc. And it starts from mixing colors, looking at things, using the imagination, and diving in to the energy of composition, from which something comes from nothing, to create harmony of contrast, and an ever-changing, ever-evolving potential for beauty, love, and understanding. Color, painting, art, incredible stuff. Part of our deep existences, but also something you can just do for fun and to enjoy and get your mind off of your life, or to express yourself, to relate to your children, to have activities to do together as a family. So I think we're going to say this is pretty good for now. We saw a lot of what we can do with red and green, no white. Red, green, and water, basically. 2 reds, 2 greens. Whole plethora of grays, browns. And we could keep going. I mean, oh my goodness. So much. I want to get a nice, we can mix them. Use some of the light green. Yeah, I'm going for a muddy brown like that. And then a little bit of the dark. Oh, it gets nice and green in there. A little extra. Just really nice colors. And then add a little bit of this. Oh, a lot bit of that. All the different things you can do. You can do things like that and see it optically blend. You can see how the red and the green are electric off of each other. And yet they pull each other into each other. It's really awesome. Awesome. Just kind of willy-nilly mixing colors. And then we can look back and see what we've done and see what they do. Like a scientist will maybe mix some chemicals and then sit back and break down the results or whatever, or see what happens. So do we do something similar in art. Painting, and we're looking at what colors do, and we're looking at what it is that we're doing, and be able to step back and assess things, especially if we're exploring, experimenting, and not just cookie cuttering an image or some idea or somebody else's work. We could just keep going mixing these colors. And mixing these colors. Now I'm like trying to use them up, cover the palette, add a little bit of interesting contrast, make this feel a little bit more like a piece. And we're getting there. See how the subtleties, not mixing everything so much. You can see the colors come out individually and beautiful, beautiful dark colors, grays and browns and greens, dark reds. All right. Ha. Uh-oh, here we go. Stop him right now. We're calling it good. We mixed a bunch of reds and greens. You get the idea. Just from this, you get a whole plethora of different colors. You could do a whole painting, a whole landscape with just these colors. Really awesome stuff. All right, well, there you have it. Today was red and green, and this is what we got. Mix two colors together, well, four really. Two kinds of colors, two different greens, two different reds. Look at all these darks, almost like blacks, browns, grays. We didn't use any white. We used some thinning out with water, or just the paint itself and the paper to let it come through to make it more light. And look at all these different things, all these wonderful shapes, colors, forms that we can come together and use to make, see trees, see rivers, see stone walls, see anything you want to see. These colors exist everywhere in the universe, and it's a great way to begin to learn to see what colors do. Very basic stuff. Two complementary colors, red and green. Next time we're going to look at orange and blue and do a similar thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you all very much for joining us. Be happy, stay well, be healthy, and keep making art. And thank you for your ear